Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 3 of the Steel City Underground WTF podcast. My name is Terry Fletcher, and we have a lot to get to. I'm flying solo this week, just coming off of the Monday Night Football win. I'm still giddy on what I like to call Terry Tuesday because I have a couple of podcasts that dropped today. But what a win. It was touch and go. It was not easy. I had so many people texting me saying, we're praying for you, just to make sure that, I knew I was okay if we didn't win. But, oh my goodness, what a game. First of all, the penalties. Now, I know that Joe gets on and with Tina, my trusted companions there on Steel City Underground staff, but I know they get on and do a quick yinsing after the game. But I'm telling you, what do we have, like 12, 13 penalties? I did see 155 penalized yards, and then also in Tomlin's presser, he also mentioned it as well. So those penalties are killers. I mean, there was one where, we actually had downed it, I think, well inside the 5, and then to get a personal foul called, and then also have it brought back because it was kicked, into the end zone. So now we've got a 19-yard penalty. It's just crazy when you see some of those things. And so the penalties killed us for sure. But I have to say, one of the things that drove me crazy all week was just every time anyone referred to Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is the backup quarterback and the current quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is that they kept saying Fitzmagic. And okay, say it once, it's funny. Say it twice, we get it. I mean, even somebody on the Miami Dolphins team took that name and trademarked it so that he couldn't even use it for any kind of money offering or, any kind of merchandising. But to say it the entire game and then the after game and then ESPN wouldn't stop. I mean, this is hours, folks. So if you didn't get a chance to catch the game, it just became, it was nauseum. So they needed to stop that because in my opinion, it's not Fitzmagic anymore. It's Fitztragic. He threw 3 picks in the first half, and he did throw 3 touchdowns over this course of the game and did try to just kind of get a comeback at the end. But he did not have his quote-unquote magic. So it was crazy what ended up coming out and happening. But what a game. It was there was a lot of WTFs in it. A positive one had to be Vance McDonald. I mean, his splash play where, Ben just threw him the ball and he just leveled Conte and just leaped over him to take it in for a touchdown. But then, and we saw that over and over and over again, and it's like a big meme out there now. Are you kidding me? Talk about a stiff arm. I mean, he absolutely leveled him. It was awesome. But what wasn't so awesome is after that, pick me up. We really needed that for momentum. Chris Boswell, Mr. Clutch, Mr. Automatic, they say ice water in his veins. He missed a couple of extra points and missed a field goal. Now, the 47-yard field goal in that field, okay. But you cannot miss your extra points, especially when you're coming into, a 7-0. They scored quick, and he did it on a touchdown that had, now we're 7-6, and that's just like 2 field goals. So when that happens, that's definitely a problem, and Chris better figure it out. We love Boswell, absolutely, but if he doesn't figure it out, there's going to be some tryouts coming in. I don't understand why Jordan Berry still has a job, because let's face it, when you say something like, wow, Jordan Berry did a great job in kicking, it's not often you say that. So he did a couple that were good yesterday and a couple that were not so good, and you're just like, oh my goodness, how is that going to continue with that? So definitely interesting game. One of the biggest things that I think it just has to stop in the league, and it has to be revised, has to be looked at. I know Coach Tomlin's on the competition committee, but for all of you, again, we don't just do WTF for Steelers. We do it for all the games. And when you look at the games and look at all the penalties, one of the biggest penalty issues right now is roughing the passer. I mean, it's like playing touch football. The guys are going to their side. They're putting all their body weight, yes, on the on the quarterback, but they're not hitting their head. And if they are, then definitely the head call should stand. But they're sacking them, and that's what a sack is, when a defensive player comes up and sacks the quarterback. So basically puts their body weight on them to get into the ground and make sure they can't advance the ball. And so when you see this, Clay Matthews, second week in a row, he got called for it. And you look at it doesn't look like it's a problem. We got it called. Even Cam Hayward came out on social media and basically said, what are you supposed to do at this point? You know, you see his leg go up a little bit, so that looks like he's, kind of driving him into the ground. But, Clay is a good player, and he's been a defensive player for a long time. And now they're trying to tell him everything you've known to be true is not true anymore. And we got a couple of them as well. There was one that I know that the media was like, oh, Ben, what are you doing? Because he went down. But on replay, if you see it, he got knocked in the back of the helmet. And it doesn't matter how soft or how hard you get hit in the back of the head. Sometimes it can just cause you to go forward. So I'm going to pretend that he did not flop on that one. But just looking at those roughing the passer calls, they've got to figure something out. They've got to figure it out. And if you can go to Twitter and find this one video, it's really funny. You can look at mine at Terry and Caliph, and it's so Caliph on my Twitter account, because I reposted it or retweeted it. It's this guy playing touch football with his girlfriend, and it's really funny because he basically lays her down or tackles her, but really gently, picks her up, lays her down gently, pulls a pillow from behind his back pocket, puts her head behind the pillow, and then gives her a kiss, and then goes up and throws his arms up like, look, I did it right. And I'm telling you, that is exactly what it should be at this point. I have no idea what a sack is. No idea. And for those of us that have a pretty good knowledge of the game, it's just really crazy when you sit there and think of all these things that they're trying to do. And drives me a little bit insane as well, because, you're a fan at home and you're like, yes, get to the quarterback. And then also all of a sudden you're just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So it's just interesting when you see that kind of thing and you just don't know what to do with it. So just a little bit crazy. So what else happened around the league? Well, first of all, how many of you do this thing called survival fantasy? I know I do. But it basically means each week you are voting on a team to, through Yahoo or whatever your platform is, mybookie.com. I know that's been one of our sponsors. But basically you're voting on one team to win their game. You don't worry about points or spreads or anything like that. But you can't pick that same, you advance if you win. So let's say you pick, Steelers to beat Tampa Bay. Then you get to go on to the next week and you pick another team, but you can't pick Steelers again. So it's just kind of funny because you basically keep going. Well, a lot of people in my, in this fantasy thing I was doing, bet on the Minnesota Vikings to shut out Buffalo and basically to, absolutely win. Well, no, let's put that in reverse. Buffalo, after being what I call one of the worst teams in the league right now, they actually beat Minnesota 27-6. So talk about a big WTF there. And Minnesota had, if you had any of their players, Latavius Murray, Kirk Cousins, any of their players is in fantasy, you were screwed. There's just no way. There's just nothing that you could see. So it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy to see some of that. And then one of the bad things, and I just think my WTF on this one is not what happened, but what I'm seeing happened afterward as far as a post, which I didn't like from the opposing team, a guard. Jimmy Garoppolo, from the quarterback for the 49ers, who just got a big contract after sitting 3.5 years behind Tom Brady, played stellar the last 5 games last year. But, let's face it, when you're 1 and 10, and now you go up to, I think it was 6 and 10, and that's why you go there, because you have nothing really to play for. But it was just interesting because he ran out of bounds, he was scrambling, and he tore his ACL. So that's really sad to me. But my WTF goes to the lineman on the other team that he was like, the Chiefs, he said that was his fault for running that way. there are play action and, pass read option, quarterbacks who move. And so that's kind of mean to say that. So I didn't like that at all. But then when we look at, just going back a little bit to the roughing the passer call, does anybody see what Mike McCarthy did? Okay, so the Green Bay coach, so and I hate to put it this way because we're not supposed to use profanity on our podcast, but let's just put it out there. He lost his shit, okay? He went after the ref on this one, and just absolutely, he didn't just yell at him and get in his face. You thought he was going after him. So talk about losing your stuff, boy. He just really went crazy, and he needs to reel that in. If he doesn't, he might be fined. I could see that coach getting fined on that. That's absolutely unbelievable. The way he just went down his throat. So that was not good. And then I talked about the splash play with Vance McDonald, where he basically just leveled a guy as he was jumping over him. We were so excited about that. But here's the funny thing. This is really funny. So they put it on Instagram, and the whole play of him just pushing that guy's face and jumping over him. And Vance McDonald said, "Hey, Steeler fans, thanks for all the love." He got 10.6 thousand likes on that and 355 comments. So it was very cute. It was just funny to see some of that there, and that's awesome. And then the Chris Conte, he couldn't return. He was questionable to return because he just, again, got leveled. So that was crazy. A couple other things here, and this is kind of some good ones. So and these are WTFs that I find interesting or funny only because as long as I've been watching football, your quarterbacks are getting older. They are. How old is Brady now? 41. And let's face it, they are playing crappy, but we'll get to that in a minute. But Drew Brees, okay, shout out to Drew Brees. He hasn't always been my favorite quarterback, but I'm telling you, if you want to take him in fantasy, if nobody else has yet, boy, he throws and throws and throws. But he's 39 years old. Did you know that? I know sometimes you don't think people that are as short as him are 39, but he is 39. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and one of his touchdowns was a game-time spin move to score at the goal line. It was crazy. I'm looking at that going, WTF, dude, what are you doing? You're 39. He could have absolutely messed up his knee there, but it was awesome to see. They replayed it over and over, and so that's what the red zone's for, to check out those things. But when I think about that and the older quarterbacks, and Ben now, being 35, really looking at him, he did a quarterback sneak last night. And remember with, in Monday Night Football, remember with Todd Haley, we had so many opportunities last year to actually win games by just getting our 4th and inches, and he wouldn't do it. And so seeing Ben last week dive for a touchdown, and then, for a rushing touchdown, and then this week, a quarterback sneak, I like it. I like it. If you're going to be out there saying, I'm in my best, shape I've ever been, well, let's see. Let's just check it out. Then getting back to the Patriots, okay, so the Patriots, well, let's just call it what it is. The Patriots suck right now. They just suck right now, and we haven't been able to say that in how many years? Seriously, how many years? As many times as Brady puts on all 5 of his Super Bowl rings on one hand, we haven't been able to say that. But Detroit Lions, they shocked the Patriots last Sunday night, and it was pretty bad. Now, I don't think people should say they're not going to make the playoffs, but they look pretty terrible. But then in contrast, I'm going back and forth on this. I'm kind of a flip-flopper. They've won at least 12 games in the last 8 years. So, but in this year, they've been outscored by 35 points, 71-36, since the halftime week 1. They are just getting killed. Now, obviously, Julian Edelman is still out. Name a playmaker that is besides Gronk and besides Brady who's on the Patriots without looking it up. You can't. You just don't know who's on their team. But their defense, you don't know who's on their team either. So there's no playmakers to really help out there. So that's just, talk about a WTF. But what bothers me about that as a Steeler fan is when they're playing terrible, that should be a window for the Steelers. But right now, it's just sad to me because you sit there and you look and see what we're doing right now, and we were lucky to win that game last night. The defense did a great job, and we were at 30-10. We were up 20 points, and then all of a sudden, we won, but by 30-27. they let them back in the door. And if you're going to do that, you're going to lose games. You're not going to sustain yourself throughout the season. Now, in saying that, we know what the issue is. Okay, I mentioned our kicker, which you know that Mike Tomlin's not going to put up with that for very long. But let's face it, as much as you may not be happy, hate, not be, or agree with, who knows, LeVeon Bell right now, he is one of our best players, or I should say he is one of the best players. He's not ours at all. Hasn't signed his franchise tag of $14.5 million. He's now down to making probably 11 now that he's missed 3 games, and who knows. I think the biggest thing for LeVeon Bell for me is just tell the organization your plan. Let them plan. Let them figure out what they need to do instead of hoping you come back the next week and having to keep talking about it. But talk about disrespect. If you want to sit out the whole year, do it. Good for you. I mean, obviously you're not working out. Obviously you're not doing something to keep in shape. You're basically out on jet skis and having a wrap launch party and doing whatever works for you. But you're not showing that and then putting on Twitter and liking other people's tweets that have to do with negativity about the team or just about your contract. If I hear about your contract one more time, I'm going to scream. Even the ESPN commentator who they call Booger, yeah, okay, that's a good name for you. I wanted to punch him last night when I was listening to this, and I'm not a violent person, but I was getting pretty ticked. He's sitting there saying, oh, LeVeon should sit at home, and he should be the one to, this is contract, and he should. What are you talking about? I don't care if you're the best player on the team or not. You basically let your organization know what you're doing. And when they offered him almost twice as much as the next running back to make up for the fact that he's also the number 3 wide receiver, and he's near 30. And let's face it, he's been in the league 6 years and he's only started half the time because of suspensions, because of injury. He's only started 3 of the 6 years. He's had 3 to 4 injuries. He's had 2 suspensions from drug use or basically failing a drug test or not showing up for drug tests. And the team has stuck with him. The team has had faith in him. The team has continued. And this is how he treats the organization. So at this point, he's just a big WTF for me, which I could care less what he does. But let the team know. Is it going to be hard to win without him? Absolutely. I love James Conner, but he is not LeVeon Bell. We saw that last night. We were not getting penetration until the end where he picked up some yardage and just powered his way through. But Bell finds those holes that nobody else does. And yes, we miss him. We absolutely miss his presence. But do we miss his antics? Are we kind of sick and tired of the crap he's pulling right now? We are. So it's not too good. So basically at this point, just tell everybody what you're going to do. And if you're going to hold out for your next team, don't think those other teams are watching you. I hope your next team is like a Buffalo Bills. I hope it's the crappiest team out there. You get your money. You become a Mike Wallace, where you go team to team to team, but hey, you made your $40 million. Good for you. So if it's just that for you, then you don't belong at the Steelers. The Steelers mean something. They stand for something. The standard is the standard. And right now, buddy, you're not the standard. So, and when it comes to what type of person you are, not what type of player. Player, no question, but person, I'm out. Okay, my rant is over there. So let's keep going on our WTF. You're probably sitting there going, okay, Terry, WTF for you. But the Raiders, 0-3. Okay, so anybody else you see this coming with John Gruden? I did. He has been out of football a long time, and football is a different game. He's got a 10-year contract as a coach with the Raiders. He called out Derek Carr on TV, and I was like, dude, what WTF are you doing calling out your player on the media? I mean, the only ever time I've seen that is in Philly when the coach called out Nick Foles last year when he had a bad game. And I didn't think it was appropriate, but it wasn't even as bad as what's been going on with John Gruden. Now, I think Derek Carr has definitely regressed since he broke his leg, but you keep it in-house. You keep it in-house. That was just incredibly stupid. But then when you look at Jacksonville, so here's something interesting. So everybody basically had Jacksonville and Minnesota to win the Super Bowl. That's what they think the Super Bowl's going to be. Not so fast. So they lose to the Titans. They only gave up 9 points. That's it. 9 points and 233 yards. And they were at home, and they lose 9-6. Okay, who does that? But you know what? They basically started passing more than rushing. And when you've got Bortles as your quarterback, you can't do that. I don't care if you think you're the best defense in the universe. You've got Blake Bortles, and let's face it, he may be a top 15 quarterback, but he's number 15 based on the rest of the league. And so you can't do that. And obviously you can't. Otherwise, you're going to lose games like that. And it sounds like the Titans have also figured out their defense, which I'm happy for them that they're doing that. And then last but not least, okay, so let's look at what is the biggest WTF do you think for this week? Well, you have to know, last Thursday night, the Cleveland Browns won their game, first game in 635 days. They won it over the Jets. The Bud Light cooler gets to be opened. Everybody's yelling dilly dilly. And the sad thing about it, it's because Tyrod Taylor got hurt and number 1 overall draft pick Baker Mayfield entered the game. And I hope this isn't for the Cleveland Browns. I really hope it's not another Johnny Manziel thing. Remember when he was there and he would go in and do his whole money flashing thing? You know, it did give them a spark. It gave them, you know, some things to kind of be like, okay, maybe. But Mike Pettin was like, yeah, this guy is terrible. Now, I see flashes of different things from Baker Mayfield, and I think he's probably a better quarterback. But let's just see what he does, because in just looking before the draft, and his character was really questioned within the draft. And so, and just what kind of person he is. And so it'll be interesting to see how he handles now replacing Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterback for the Browns. So they won their first game. I'm sure it felt like their Super Bowl victory to them. They did it in prime time on Thursday night. And so, good for them. I really kind of was happy to see them do that. But oh my gosh, WTF. I just can't believe what happened there. So that is just crazy. And then there's one that, I guess that wasn't last but not least. I would have to say the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes. WTF of that kid. He's the same age as my daughter, 23. He is incredible. He has thrown 16 touchdowns, 13, 16 touchdowns, no interceptions. He throws darts and lasers, and it's just amazing what the Chiefs are doing right now. I personally think they're the number 1 offense out there. So I think that's arguably a pretty accurate statement. But what's going on in the league? It's just crazy right now. Hopefully the Steelers can build on their win. We play the Ravens next and talk about a WTF. That's actually going to be interesting. Hopefully the 49ers figure out what they're going to do with having to find a new quarterback. I just don't think Brethard, which is their backup, and then they're going to pull somebody up from a practice squad, is going to get it done for them. So it'll be basically quarterback watch up in San Francisco and to see what's going on with that. But as always, folks, we really appreciate you listening in. Thanks for sticking with me. I know I kind of went a little bit on a rant with my LeVeon Bell WTF moment, but we're happy to have you listening. And everybody, make it a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.